Yurooo. Wazzam. You heard me? Yeah. This is a test run. I'm getting back to doing reactions. I'm not a reactor. I'm just looking at videos that I like, that I can watch, that'll help me improve what I got going on. And I have to relearn, you know, how they say you have to delete all that in your head and relearn new knowledge from what we was taught when we was growing up. All the knowledge that I have reacted, I had learned a lot in this year I've been off from reacting, but I also forgot a lot. I forgot how to, so I had to do a test run to remember how to, cause I'm like, this might not, this, I was doing this, I was doing that, but yeah, I gotta get back to that. You heard me? And today I'm reacting to how stretching really works. It start with the stretch. First, it start with your mind. You gotta believe, you know. Then, once you get ready to start working out, it start with the stretching. Don't mind the mess in the back. It's a trial run. This is a trial to get back going. But yes, my name is Terry Spears. If you don't know, this is my YouTube channel. And I used to ask people to subscribe, but you can just do what you will. That's all on you. I ain't forcing your hand. But yeah, let's get into the video.
We thought about including stretching into our daily routines, as there are many potential benefits to stretching. One of the more obvious and common benefits being improved flexibility and range of motion. But what?
We gonna turn this into an assignment. This is an assignment. I'm actually in school, so we're gonna turn this into an assignment, and I have to. We just gonna remember that for next time. The advantages of stretching.
What is actually happening to our bodies when we stretch and develop adaptations like improved flexibility?
Now let's start back over and let me repeat it so I can remember.
Benefits being improved.
The benefits of stretching. One of the benefits of stretching.
Potential benefits to stretching. One of the more obvious and common benefits being improved flexibility and range of motion. But
improved flexibility
what is actually
and
happening
range of
to our bodies when we stretch and develop adaptations like improved flexibility? Well, part of this answer might actually surprise you, as a big part of this resides in your brain and nervous system. Who would have thought that your brain and nervous system had an influence or any say over your stretching and flexibility? So in today's video, we're going to take a look at the brain, certain nerves, as well as typical muscles that we stretch, so that we can figure out what's going on here. We'll also talk about some of the most effective types of stretching for these adaptations, or the best ways to improve flexibility over time. It's going to be a stretchy one.
When you come to my YouTube channel and reactions, I then came to a level in my life that I have to learn, and the smartest man in the world know that we don't know nothing, and I'm just trying to learn. So when you come to my YouTube channel, most likely now you're going to learn. You're going to learn something that you haven't known, and if you do know it already, it's just going to sharpen your skills. So that's what we done. We just sharpen our skills. Yes, I know how to stretch. Yes, I stretch every time I work out, but I'm just sharpening my skills. The intricates. Did I say it right? The intricates. That's another thing we're gonna start reading too. So if you don't like reading, learning, knowledge, working out, health, this might not be the channel for you. But we're gonna get back into this.
If you will, filled with some obvious cheesy jokes. But let's jump right into this anatomical awesomeness.
Anatomical awesomeness.
So when we think about our own flexibility, or how flexible we are, we often judge or gauge that by how far we can move a joint through its range of motion, or that point in the joint range of motion where we're like, that's far enough. So let's kind of set the stage with an example here, specifically a stretching example, with the typical hamstring stretch of bending over and touching your toes. And we'll also use some of these plastic bones to help us with this example. This is called the os coxa. It forms part of your pelvis, and then you can see the feet.
That's it right there. That's what I needed. That's why I'm watching it. The os coxa. That would be every time I be stretching, my ischiastia be pulling. Like, I know you about to tell me how to stretch this. I be like, I don't know what that is right here, but every time I stretch, like do lunges and stuff, like even when I be doing squat, the ischiastia be tight. It like tension. I'm like, is it cause I'm old? What can I stretch to start working on that? The ischiastia.
Plugging in there.
The femur.
Now, when I stretch or bend forward to stretch my hamstrings, I'm going to actually hinge forward at the hip joint. This is technically called flexion of the hip. If I bring this a little bit closer, you can definitely see what that hinging motion looks like. Now, this area that I'm tapping with my thumb is significant because this is where the hamstrings actually attach.
Oh,
the anatomy nerds, it's called the ischial tuberosity.
Ischial
tuberosity. A lot of people just call it the sit bone. But again, let's say we're stretching the hamstring, we hinge forward, and
your hamstring attached to your ischiascroscopy.
Get to that point where the hamstrings are like, that's far enough.
Can't go no far.
We're all likely not to be terribly happy with that limited amount of flexibility and range of motion because a lot of us might think we need the hamstring flexibility to be able to, say, successfully kick somebody in the head if necessary. Not promoting violence, you just never know when you might need to engage ninja mode in self-defense. But for whatever reason, we decide or choose to engage in a stretching routine for a couple of weeks or maybe a couple of months, and we improve that hamstring flexibility. Now, instead of maybe this being the end point in that range of motion, now because of that increased hamstring flexibility, maybe I can go this far. And you can see how that could translate to touching your toes easier, but also just the overall increased range of motion of a joint. Now, this principle of improving...
I gotta get into a yoga class. I think I need to sign up for a yoga class, a boxing class, and I also want to play baseball, softball. 37U softball, baseball. I do not want 37U football. That ain't what I'm doing.
Improving the flexibility of the muscle and that translating to more range of motion of the joint can be applied to the various muscle groups and their associated joints throughout the body. For example, if we improve the flexibility of the calf muscles, that could translate to improved range of motion at the associated ankle joint. But
you know, when YouTube come ads, I ain't gonna lie, YouTube went overboard with the ads. Like ever since you updated the new YouTube ad centric whatever, bruh, it's like every 2 minutes an ad coming. So it's like either you gonna go premium or you gonna go ad.
And accounting for these stopping points, that feeling of I don't want to go any further, as well as the potential.
This nigga working out on the virtual
changes and improvements in flexibility. Yes, things like the muscles, tendons, and other connective tissues play a role, but as we've strongly implied, this amazing structure also plays a big role. But how? But real quick, before I get into the brain and nervous system, I want to take a second to say thank you to the sponsor of today's video, Yoga Body.
I ain't gonna lie, yoga.
Since 2007,
that man sponsoring me, bro. I'm sorry. We going to the muscle splendors.
So in order for us to understand how the brain and spinal cord get involved with stretching and flexibility, we first need to see how they communicate with the actual muscles. And if we were to zoom into the muscle tissue, specifically the meat of the muscle, which is known as the muscle belly, embedded within the muscle belly, we would see these specialized sensory receptors called muscle spindles. These little muscle spindles are encapsulated structures that contain these specialized muscle fibers called intrafusal fibers. Intrafusal just refers...
Intrafusal, the ambulance threw me off. Stay focused. Sometimes you gotta go back. Teacher, can you repeat that again? I wasn't paying attention.
Embedded within the muscle belly, we would see these specialized sensory receptors called muscle
spindles.
Jamie
kept calling me.
These little muscle spindles are encapsulated structures that contain these specialized muscle fibers called intrafusal fibers. Intrafusal just refers to inside the spindle, so it's a pretty good name. Now, these intrafusal fibers inside the capsule are also going to be wrapped with these sensory nerve endings, which will then provide information to the brain about the muscle. But what type of information is this providing? Muscle spindles detect and provide information about muscle length. So let's use the biceps in this example, but again, keep in mind, this could be applied to nearly any muscle in the human body. And again, those muscle spindles will be embedded in the belly of the muscle, and they're going to detect...
Yeah, I ain't thought I knew that, huh? The pectoralis major. Damn. I'm gonna get it. Y'all know what I'm talking about.
The length of the muscle and even changes in the length of that muscle. And it might actually be easier to use my biceps first here. So, for example, my biceps is at a certain length right now. The muscle spindle is sending information into my brain about this length. This is a different length, new information. Different length, new information. Different length, new information. It not only tells my brain the difference between, say, like this length of the muscle versus that length of the muscle, it also tells me this versus this, how fast those length changes occur. So what does the brain do with this information? Do we become consciously aware of it? And of course, how does this relate to stretching and flexibility? Well, first let's get the signal up to the brain, and with any muscle, it's going to have to travel up a nerve. So in this particular example, we have the biceps.
I'm sorry,
there's a nerve here called the musculocutaneous nerve, but it would be a different nerve for different muscle groups. And those signals from the muscle spindle cells would travel up this nerve and eventually get to the spinal cord, then move up the spinal cord and get to the brain.
I'm lagging, my bad. I'm trying to, you hear me?
And there's a nerve here called the musculocutaneous nerve, but it would be a different nerve for different muscle groups. And those signals from the muscle spindle cells would travel up this nerve and eventually get to the spinal cord, then move up the spinal cord and get to the brain. Once this information is in the brain, it's going to relay to two areas that are important for our discussion. One,
what happened to my camera? That's crazy. How you did that? How you did that? How they did that? How they did that?
Is my personal favorite structure of the brain, and that is this, which you can see here, the cerebellum.
Okay.
Now, besides looking quite amazing, it also participates in some amazing functions like smoothing out and coordinating skeletal muscle contractions. And it makes sense that it's receiving that information from the muscle spindles about length changes so that it can make the appropriate adjustments to muscle contractions and therefore coordination. The other area of the brain that this information is relayed to is an area called the somatosensory cortex. The somatosensory cortex is located in the parietal lobe, specifically in this fold or gyrus that
I hit a nigga in the somatosensory cortex. When you start, boy, look, I'm out to learn this. Dog. When you start rapping like that, man, I hit a nigga in the cerebral cortex. Man, they ain't gonna know what you talking about. Like what? Boy, I hit a nigga in his head, right here in this part, right here. Hit that boy right here. Man, that boy shit went. But that. We not talking about that. That's why I'm getting better, you know. I'm changing my life, my perspective, my point of view, the way I'm, you know. I don't need to be thinking about hitting a nigga in the head, that bitch. You know what I mean? And it's, what I hit him in? I'm gonna let dude say it for me.
Is an area called the somatosensory cortex.
I hit that nigga in the somatosensory cortex. That shit sound like, man, look, somatosensory cortex. I got visions coming from my somatosensory cortex. Somatosensory cortex. One more time.
The brain that this information is relayed to is an area called the somatosensory cortex. The somatosensory cortex is located in the parietal lobe, specifically in this fold or gyrus that I'm probing here.
I hit a nigga in the somatosensory cortex. When nigga try to play with me, know he's bro next. Yeah. chill out, y'all. I want y'all. That's gonna be. And before I get out of here, cause like I said, this is just a trial. And this is where we gonna go with it. And that is the word of the day. Can somebody come up with a bar, 4 bars, or 2, however you coming, with somatosensory cortex? That's it. Somatosensory cortex. It's a part in your brain that's attached to your muscle that send up messages to your somatosensory cortex.
All the way up to the midline of the brain. Now, the somatosensory cortex receives all sorts of...
Somatosensory cortex. You gotta keep repeating it. Consistency. That's how you gonna get it. Somatosensory cortex. Somatosensory cortex. So one time I'm gonna be talking. I'm like, man, my somatosensory cortex hurting. They gonna be like, boy, what did you just say? Bro, my head hurting, bro. Like, and it's like, Why you ain't just say? Cause my brain don't think like that. I know the name of it. That's how I'm coming. That's how my brain think. You hear me? Please.
Different somatic senses from the body.
Things like
temperature, touch, pressure, pain, torch. And of course,
your senses. See, all that, your senses, your somatosensory cortex, get all your senses. Like, ooh, baby, ooh, chill out.
Information from the muscle spindles about those muscle length changes. And what this does for you is creates a conscious awareness about body position. And even...
It creates a conscious awareness. Yes, it does. You're conscious. Now, when I'm working out, I have a new level of learning. I'm more conscious of what I'm doing, knowing that I have my spindles that's inside my muscles that send up information to my somatosensory cortex to let me know about the feel, the touch, the strength, if I should do more, if I put more effort, and
sensation about when you're tugging or pulling on a muscle when you're stretching. Now, this conscious awareness about body position, this understanding of where your limbs are in three-dimensional space, and even awareness about trunk or torso position is referred to as proprioception. Understanding where your body parts are in three-dimensional.
Oh, proprioception. Boy, I need me up. Man, bro. I'm going to have to watch this again. I need to, when you come to class, make sure you got a pen, some paper. You're right. What about, man, you're right. You're right. Yeah, welcome, y'all. Come on. When you come to my class, make sure you got a pen, paper, because you're going to learn something. Your proprioception. Man, let's go back. Proprioception. Proprioception. This is how you learn new words, too.
Of where you're
somatosensory cortex.
Damn, we gonna get it. Three-dimensional space, and even awareness about trunk or torso position is referred to as proprioception. Understanding where your body parts are in three dimensions.
Proprioception. Somatosensory sensory cortex. Proprioception. Proprioception.
Space is referred to as proprioception. Understanding where your body parts are in three-dimensional space.
Where your body
and that's why sometimes the muscle spindles are even...
Proprioception. My bad. I'm sorry, y'all.
Awareness about trunk or torso position is referred to as proprioception. Understanding where your body parts are in three-dimensional space. And that's why sometimes the muscle spindles are even referred to as proprioceptors. They're not the only proprioceptors in the body. We can talk about some of the others in a later video. But I'd like to give two examples to help illustrate why proprioception is so important. And one of those examples definitely relates to stretching. The first example that I kind of want you to think of is imagine if your eyes, the input from your eyes, was the only thing that brought you information about where your body parts were in three-dimensional space. Like, yes, you can look at your arm, see where it is, look at your torso and other body parts, and your eyes bring that information in. But imagine the problems that would arise if that was the only information that you got about your body position. Because if we all held out our
somatosensory cortex, you got your somatosensory cortex. You got your spindles, you got your somatosensory cortex, you got all that.
Hand in front of us like
this. And you got your proprioception. You hear me? Proprioception.
When was the last time you closed your eyes and this happened? Ah, where's my arm? Where's it? Come back! Oh, you're back. Now, I apologize if I scared anybody with that. I do that all the time in class to make sure people are awake and paying attention.
Don't mean it ain't that.
But that crazy example doesn't really happen, right? Because we would be a hot mess in a dark room or whenever we closed our eyes if we didn't have proprioceptive input coming from the muscle spindles and other sources. So next time you turn out the lights or close your eyes to maybe make out with a significant other, be grateful that you have proprioceptive input to be aware of where your body parts are going. And also be grateful that the somatosensory cortex can also make sense and process sensations like tactile stimulation, so you can also be aware of someone else's body parts. And the second example as to why proprioceptive input is so important, and I promise this is finally going to get us to how...
That would be, so, I was very interested in how stretching worked, but I have to go ooh, and Yeah, and this was the beginning. So stretching really the beginning. So this really the beginning for me getting back into my reaction bag, cause I gotta react to the react to the react. You hear me? But yeah, we learned some new things today. Sotomio sensory cortex. You know, you got your spinal muscles that send up information to your sotomio sensory cortex, and you got your proprioceptions.
This all relates to stretching and
You know, like I said, when you come, you just trying to learn and yay, yay. Ah!